I would start by thanking you and the ranking member in this committee for the work it's done and the legacy you both in this committee have. You've taken a global competitiveness and security issue, and from my experience in financial services, healthcare, and state government, the work that this committee does on the global level has had real impacts, as Mr. Jaffer mentioned, to the work that state governments do to better prepare for the global threat and our critical institutions like healthcare, utilities, and otherwise. Mr. Jaffer, I'm going to pull on a string you left in your testimony there, if I may, and to the ranking member's question. It's clear that the U.S. government has much ground to cover to compete with the PRC in technological innovation. You've mentioned the need for additional capital, which would include more robust funding for research and development to emerging technologies, cross-collaboration with the private tech sector as a means of advancing our interests in national security in the cyberspace. How do you envision the U.S. cyber deterrence strategy when the legal parameters and international norms do not address the current bad behavior of our adversaries, including the PRC and Russia?
Thank you, Senator Helmy. Look, I think that today the level of activity we've seen on American systems is sufficient to enable us to push back if we wanted to. And that pushback can come in the form of cyber options, or it can also come in the form of other options, sanctions and the like. Today, America's intellectual property has been stolen to the tune of billions of dollars a year, trillions total. And as a result, that damage alone to our economy and the threat it poses to our national security is enough to warrant more aggressive, active pushback in the cyber domain. I think the norms are there. We're choosing not to take advantage of them.
Thank you. Mr. Kaye, in light of the upcoming election, the subcommittee's work obviously is going to pivot on the critical response to enduring the challenge of curtailing authoritarian regimes that seem to have no constraint on their digital oppression at home and their efforts abroad. What hopes do you have for future administrations to properly address the use of commercial spyware, particularly by our authoritarian adversaries?
Thank you for that question, Senator Helmy. And that also gives me an opportunity to respond in part to Senator Romney's point. So I'd want to make two points here. The first is that although I share the concern very much about Chinese repression at home and its export of its repression abroad, I think it's important to see the moment that we're facing as a moment in which we have a very cheap availability of tools that are spreading well beyond the states that have that kind of power. And so there is a range of steps, actually, that the Congress has already been taking, actually at a normative and at an operational level, let's say, to deal with the threat of foreign commercial spyware. And I think that's actually important, and there's quite a bit to build on there. The second point that I wanted to make is maybe to give a defense of norms for a moment, because I do think that while there is a kind of battle in the trenches right now that's a technology battle and is also a geopolitical battle, it is also a normative battle. And that normative battle is a vision of a free and open internet on the one side, the one that I think we all share, and a vision of one that is all about state control. And it's not just a question of those norms being adopted by UN resolutions and so forth. It's a question of those norms being essentially embedded in our laws, and the Congress and the State Department and others pushing for those norms to be a part of our allies' laws so that their own use of this technology and their own export of the technology is constrained by rules. So I see a connection between norms, which I agree in the abstract don't mean that much, but norms that are actually operationalized. I think there's quite a bit of room, and there's actually quite a bit to build on from both what Congress has done and what the Biden administration has done in recent years.
Thank you, Mr. Kaye. That concludes my questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Ricketts.